family should be a source of love and support, but for me, it was nothing but endless conflict. My name is Jack. I'm 31 years old. And this is the story of how my mother tried to steal my house and give it to my sister just because she was pregnant. But what she forgot was, I was no longer the obedient little boy she used to control. My mother always had a favorite child, and sadly, it wasn't me. From a young age, I was treated like an outsider in my own family. When my parents divorced because my mom cheated with her high school ex, I chose to live with my dad, while my sister Sarah stayed with my mom. They were alarmingly similar, manipulative, entitled, and always looking for a way to control others. While I had to work hard and become independent at 16 under my father's guidance, Sarah lived off others. My dad even paid over $330,000 for her college fund, but she wasted the opportunity, dropped out of community college after 2 years, and just did some part-time online work while living off her boyfriend. My dad was my mentor. He taught me everything about work and business, and after 12 years of working with him, I became his business partner. But then, 8 months ago, he passed away due to complications from a long-term lung condition. He always joked that if smoking didn't kill him, something else would, and sadly he was right. After the funeral, his will was revealed. I inherited everything, his house, assets, and most of his business shares. Sarah received only a 2015 Altima and a few personal items. My mother got exactly $1,000. Dad knew exactly who he was dealing with, and he had planned for this moment. One evening, as I was relaxing at home with my girlfriend, there was a knock at the door. When I opened it, my mother and Sarah stood there, stone-faced. Before I could say a word, they walked right in like they owned the place. Sarah laughed as she explored my home, opening doors and inspecting everything, while my mother snapped her fingers for a bottle of water like I was her servant. I frowned and asked, "Why are you here?" Neither of them answered. Instead, Sarah called out from the hallway, "Mommy, it's perfect." A bad feeling settled in my gut. My mother finally stood up, looked me straight in the eyes, and said, "Now that your father is gone, this house should have been mine, since I was his only wife. But I'm not greedy. You make good money. You can just buy another house." I blinked, stunned. "Are you serious?" She nodded, completely confident. "Sarah is pregnant. She needs this house more than you do. If you insist on staying, you can live in one room and pay all the expenses until you decide to leave." I had read too many Reddit stories to know exactly where this was going. I looked at my mother, took a deep breath, and firmly said, "That's not happening. This is my house, legally, and you don't get to boss me around anymore." My mother screamed, pointing her finger in my face, yelling that she was my mother and had ultimate authority. Sarah jumped in between us, crying, "Please, Jack, I'm pregnant. I need this house." I had had enough. I stared into her eyes and said, "Sarah, your whole life, you've done nothing but play games, spend other people's money, and expect things to be handed to you. And now you think you deserve this house? No way." My mother, now furious, slapped me across the face, but I was not a helpless kid anymore. I slapped her back, twice as hard, making her stumble onto the couch. She gasped, clutching her face before suddenly smirking and saying, "You think I can't? Call the cops? I'll tell them you attacked me. I'll even say you hit a pregnant woman." That was the final straw. I raised my phone and smiled. "Mom, have you not noticed my girlfriend recording this entire thing?" My mother froze. Sarah sobbed. Like a child. I gave them a final warning. "You have 10 seconds to leave, or I call the police." My mother grabbed Sarah's arm, trying to drag her out, but Sarah screamed, "Mom, you promised me! You said this house would be mine!" I laughed, walked to the door, and slammed it shut behind them. Never come back. Days later, I found out that my mother and Sarah had posted lies about me online, claiming that I had stolen the house that was meant for Sarah. But with all the evidence I had, I forced them to delete everything and publicly apologize. The result? Sarah had to move into my mother's basement because my mom still wanted to rent out the upstairs on Airbnb. My mother barely posted anything on social media after that, while Sarah kept complaining online about her terrible living conditions. As for me, I finally got to enjoy peace in the home my father left me. Here's what I learned. Family isn't always about blood. Sometimes you have to cut off toxic people, even if they're related to you, to protect your peace. Have you ever had a family member try to take something from you? Share your story in the comments.